Here we go. I think we're all good to go. I want to say that we're good to go, but we'll give. There we go. We'll give YouTube at least. Let's make sure. Let's make sure that's happening the way that it's supposed to happen. Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Hello. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday. As you know, Fridays are, well, as you may or may not know, Fridays are definitely the days that I actually look forward to, especially with everything that we're doing, especially when it comes to chip carving and learning and everything. Especially with again, just the whole thing with us learning this skill and us having to venture onto this path of discovery and understanding and all of this. But basically, I do have to start out because I have to start out with admitting to something. And I feel like I have to admit it now. And then we're just going to get it over with, because one of the early things that I wanted to do with this, and one of the early purposes of this, was to make sure that it was basically like a practice thing in terms of understanding that not everything is going to be perfect when you start out. Not every endeavor you're going to do is not going to be as perfect as you'll like it to be the first time you do that, and that's okay. I feel like, especially nowadays with everything, with the way that society is and everything, there's just this striving for perfection, no matter what you do at no matter what point. And if you cannot achieve perfection, it's essentially you're wasting your time, which is absolutely no way to be, no way to think about anything, no way to really go on, and just kind of forgetting the fact that you're human and things take time. So I think that this is a wonderful reminder, especially as we continue to go on here. And this is definitely something that, we want to, make sure that we are reminded of as we go down our path. And once we start honing the skills that we have, and, we're looking at where we are, in the future. I'm speaking in the future terms. But we reflect on where we are at that time, oh wow, we did really good, or we're doing so great, but then also acknowledging where we were in the past. And I say that because this is definitely one of those where, for me, it's one of those is it bad? Is it so bad? And to other people, it's probably oh well, but for me, it's okay, yeah, that clearly was not supposed to happen. But before we get into that, and it's definitely relatable to the title, as you can see, 45 degrees help you keep your sanity, because that is the theme of the stream, especially when it comes to chip carving. It is crucial. It is crucially important. And really, it's especially some of the resources that I looked at and everything, they say about 45 to 65 degrees. Either way, 45 degrees help you keep your sanity, 65 degrees help you keep your sanity, whatever degree kind of, for whatever number you keep in between that, it's going to make sure that you are okay and that you prevent doing what I did. And you're probably wondering, well, Will, stop it. Just tell us, what did you do? Here's the thing. Oh, wow. And here's the thing. It's, so I made a hole I made a hole, and it's not that, it's like, okay, it's not, it's really not bad. Like, at least you'd probably think that the way I'm acting right now, it's like, did you like break the board? Did you like break like half of it? Like, what did you do? I mean, and in this, I think this is a great segment into the thing that I got so I was able to get a new camera, the camera that I was supposed to get a couple of weeks ago. I was telling everyone about the story about, the delivery, the one of the only, I think this is like the second time I've had like a horror, well, no, it wasn't the second, or maybe, yeah, it was Amazon. It was like only the second time out of all the years I've had Amazon. This was only the second time where the delivery service kind of issue, like there was a problem with delivery. But fortunately for this one, it was resolved in a wonderful manner. But still, it was just the way that things happen and the way that things are supposed to happen. It just, I was like, I can't. But with this one, it was, but with this one, we did end up getting it. We got exactly what we needed, and I get to debut it. It's not fully set up the way that I need for it to set up. We're still waiting for one more part, which is the camera stand. So right now I'm doing like a makeshift kind of situation to hold it up. So whereas it will be replacing our regular carve cam, right now it is just more of, I'm calling it the detail cam. There's a lot that like towards the end of the stream I'll be going into, because with the addition, well, like with this camera, and then like with the additions of some of the things that like Facebook has announced, I'm wanting to kind of like integrate this is like basically into like the actual live stream schedule for all of my platforms. So not just not just gaming on Facebook and then chip carving on Twitch and YouTube, gaming and chip carving all platforms Monday, well, not Monday, we don't stream on Monday, but it'll be gaming on Tuesday and Friday mornings, early mornings, as we do, because it's early. So gaming on Tuesdays and Friday early mornings, 6 a.m. And then chip carving at this time, same. The only thing is that the chip carving will stay the same here, but we'll be starting doing it on Facebook, because Facebook announced that in their gaming, in kind of like their gaming sphere, they have what's called hanging out, which is very similar to Twitch's just chatting. So it's like basically, yes, the content platform has like these roots in gaming, but they also acknowledge that sometimes people don't want to play games all the time. They just want to hang out, they just want to chat with their community. And we're kind of going to take that idea and say, yeah, we want to chat with the community, but also we want to bring some sort of like flair to our conversations. And I think this is a wonderful way to bring our flair to the conversation. So more details about that and what to expect moving forward. I'm stalling because I really do not want to show you guys the hole that I actually cut through for this project. But I feel like I gotta show you guys, because that is just what's going to happen. Like that, it's gonna happen, you're gonna see it. So I should just get it done with. So we'll actually, let's go to carving, and then we are going to show our detail cam. The detail cam, well, let's do this. Let's make sure that you can still see. Okay. And then of course, don't mind, I'm still having to situate everything there. Yes, that is the bed in the background, and then you see like the double frame for the camera. But as you can see, there we go. Right up there, that is a hole. That is a hole, and what I was doing here was partially like, oh, let me, what I was, how I usually do. I was doing my whole, okay, well, let me get out some of the carvings. Let me let me, just get out some of them and, practice a little bit and, just get comfortable with it. And then I'll be able to get them out. And as you'll notice, it turns out that's the issue with all of these. And I feel like it really tells with, now I'm really happy, because now when I do this, and then I could just easily press this button, and then you guys can actually see a lot of the detail a little bit more. And it's not so much like, hey, can you see this? And then it turns out, you can't really see much. But some of the mistakes, the missteps for this, you can like really see in the like middle part. There we go. You could really see in like the middle part there, a little bit of the chipping like right here. And then especially the big parts right here. So like right here, and then right here. And then there's another one down there. And I am willing to bet that this is because of the way that we're cutting. So while, this up here is a major tell of the way that we're cutting, is exactly what we don't want to do, simply because if you are getting to the other side of the board, and if you look, this isn't like a super thing. Yep, that's how the hole looks on the other side. This is not a super, so it's not a super thick piece of wood. Like that is, it's not super thick, but it wasn't even as if. The funny thing about all of this is that this isn't even as if I was coming through and I'm like, oh man, this is kind of challenging. I was just doing it as usual as I was doing, and then when I pulled out the chip, I noticed there was a hole. And really that is attributed to, in which I honestly feel like that is attributed to not holding it at an angle. Because as you can see here, when I started, having more of that 45-degree angle, I'm nowhere near even like half the wood. Like you can tell from the depth, I am nowhere even near half the way the wood is. And these are the way that our chips should be coming out. I'm pretty sure there's a way for them to be a little bit cleaner. But for me, I feel like that this is the way that it should be. It's like it should be enough of a dent in there, for it to, for you to actually see like there is a bit of a dent inside of the wood. But the way that these all work, like the way that these all are, they're way too like deep. So I'm thinking, because there is some sort of slant. So like when I lay my knife like along the way that it was, it's not a 90, it's definitely not a 90-degree cut. I'm not sure how I can, so it's definitely not like a 90-degree cut, but that probably is not 65 degrees. Definitely not like this one, where if I were to like lay the knife like right here, that is a slant. That is a degree slant there, as opposed to something like this, where the blade is basically like straight up from the wood. Let's see if we can see it like a little bit better on our carve. So yeah, if I were to like lay it across, that's so like for one of these, this one isn't really so much of a, it's a bit of a slant that's still there. As you can see, kind of like with the knife, it'll be so much better when I can use the actual detail cam for like the carving cam as well, and you can see everything. But it's like, yeah, there's a bit of a curve here, but then when you compare it to some like this, and you can really see that curve, like it's like all, like you can really see like, okay, now that's the sort of degree turn, that's the sort of like, hey, that's the degree, that's where it is. So let me make sure it's saying that I'm dropping frames, but Let me make sure that's not me. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Yeah. So everything's good there. So what we are going to do today is we are going to finish this up. I do think in the amount of time that we have, we are definitely going to finish up. We are going to finish up this pattern, and then after that, we did get another thing. So we do finally have a printer with an inkjet, not inkjet, laser jet. I keep getting confused because it's like there's inkjet and laser jet, and I'm like, it would make sense that inkjet is the one that should be worked, but no, it's not the inkjet that works. It's the laser jet that works. We do have a laser jet printer. It's funny because you can kind of see it. The toner cartridge is actually what's holding up the detail cam, but there's already like a mini starter toner ink sort of thing in there already. But this means that we will be able to go ahead and print out another pattern. So we'll be able to print out another pattern, and not only that, we'll be able to use our pattern transfer tool to actually get the pattern on the wood, so that we will actually be cutting through the wood and not through paper in the wood, because it's not that it's like holding us completely back, but I am noticing that it poses like another minor inconvenience that sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it's not. But if we can make sure that it's not a problem 100% of the time, definitely worth it to use the pattern transfer tool and actually just like get the pattern directly onto the wood and ship it from there. So that will be an exciting thing that I'm probably going to we're probably just going to finish up the carving for today. We're probably going to just finish up this carving, and then we'll say for next week, we'll go ahead and save the transferring the pattern, and then trying to cut that out on the next stream, as we're doing it with the detail cam, the super fancy detail cam, also on Facebook. So very exciting. But let's go ahead, finish this up. So as we are getting started, we are going to take the time and just sharpen up the wood, sharpen up the blade, because yes, it's sharp, but do we want it to be as sharp as possible? Absolutely. I think that this will be nice, especially now that we know what goes on, knowing where we need to fix things up, make sure everything's good to go, especially with our holding the knife a certain way and everything, how it can mess up. Let me just make sure one thing, make sure I can see the full chat of everyone. So we'll open that in browser. There we go. All right, so go ahead, do this. Make sure, because so when we sharpen the knife, I feel like so we didn't do anything wrong with sharpening with the way that we're sharpening, but with us sharpening the blade and then basically carving at an almost 90-degree angle and cutting through more wood than we actually need to, with that much of a sharp blade. Let's do it on here. Good. Let's do there. But so at the kind of we had a sharp blade. We were cutting like at too far of an angle. Of course, at that time, it worked for us, you know? So I figure if we keep up with that and we sharpen the blade, but then we really try to stick with the 45-degree angle or 65-degree angle, whichever angle that we kind of decide to stick with, is going to be a lot easier, and the blade's going to be able to like retain its sharpness a lot longer because we're not cutting through so much wood. So I personally am excited for that. Now that I know, it's a part of that learning experience again. It's like, now that I know what exactly to look out for, and I know the dangers, dangers of cutting the wood at like an incorrect degree. It's kind of like just with the pattern transfer tool, no one really, in all my research, no one really discussed what happens or why you want to stay at that, that 45 to 65-degree angle. And I feel like, some people would be like, well, duh, that's why, because then you're just cutting the wood. Well, sometimes some of us don't really connect the dots. Not really all of us know a lot of that. It takes us just a little bit more time. So you have to forgive some of us, all right? Gosh, darn it. But it's all right. Okay, so that's good to go. Let me there. Before, let me just be me for a moment and make sure all notifications are off and everything. That's not what I want. There we go. Okay, so we have our thumb. Protecting the thumb. I think that's also another thing. I'm pretty sure I need a better like knife sheath, because this one is like, no matter which one, this one is like going through it, and in a minute I'm about to like cut through like it all the way through, like halfway through, and I'm pretty sure that's not what I'm supposed to like, not what's supposed to like happen and like be good with, so problem for another day. So remove the eyewear because we can't see when we have the glasses on because we are nearsighted. So basically in the lesson, like how I've developed like the whole lesson and the ideal of how do I make sure that I'm always going to be at 45 degrees, in which this is one of those things that, when you look at a YouTube video, they're like, oh, this is the skill, this is what you can do to make sure you keep at that angle. The problem is, so like when they say you just wrap your hand around the blade, you do that, and then depending on the knife that you get, it has like a little indent for like your thumbprint, and then if you like keep it like that, you have your knuckle, and then you have your you have like the tip of the knife, and then you have your thumb to kind of create like a 3-point tripod to keep it 45 degrees. Here's the thing though, if you look at least for me, if you look at it, this is so uncomfortable for me, like, and I think this is one of those, where you have like sometimes when you're learning something new and you're like, okay, this is uncomfortable, I'm going to alter it just a little bit to make it just be a little bit more comfortable. And not only that, and the fact of like it being uncomfortable, my hand looks weird. It feels weird. It feels like this is not going to, like the way that it is, it's not going to cut that angle that we need for it to. And it looks like this is what we were doing before and how we're cutting everything, and that's why we are where we are. So how I've developed it, or how I've like altered it a little bit, is that I want to create just a little bit more of an indent there. Like, not indent, but I want to, turn it just a little bit in my hand, and then I slide down. So rather than like in the joint, so like where my hand is, I'm not sure if you can see. So rather than putting just the joint in there, I slid it down a little bit, and just kind of having that, because my thumbs are like pretty weird. Like it's not, it's like kind of straight, or I'm not sure. It's just a weird, it's one of those like adaptable things that you have to do. Make sure that it makes it comfortable for you, but also that you're sticking to the technique as possible. And then I noticed, so like if I do that, and then if I turn it, and then I keep it like that way, I have my hand on the board, I have my thumb on the board as well. And then when I am able to, like this way, be able to like guide the knife and everything, and we will still have that, not that we have to come up with a different way to say it, that needed degree angle on the knife, to make sure that we are not cutting too deep into the wood, and that it looks super nice. But before I do that, I'm going to add another piece of wood right here, so that this keeps my hand, so that I can just keep going, going the way that I'm supposed to go, and not have to worry about it like stopping me or whatnot. So now if we do this, and then we make that cut there, see, and then we need to control it. All right. Susan was a really good purchase on our end. I'm just gonna say that. Well, no, we don't really need that, so we could do that. Susan was a really great purchase on our end, because turning the work and everything feels so much better, and it's so much easier. Do that, and look at that, bam, bam. I have no desk space, y'all. I just want that to be known. I have like no desk space. Eventually, definitely not anytime soon, but definitely I'll want to like do sort of like an upgrade, or like sort of like a thing to where I can have just like a desk for carving on, because I've got to say, carving from the desk that you work on, that you game on, that you do all the things on, it's a little bit challenging. I'll be honest about that. For here, yeah. Start to bring it back up just a little bit. All right, and bring that there. Part. Still a little. There we go. And then again, at least with the way that this is, because our thumb, even though it's not the joint of our thumb, we're still placing it against that little notch, so that no matter what happens, if we do, let's say if we do get a little bit too far, or if for some reason we're like jerking the knife, we don't have to worry about our thumb getting hit. Like this cutting thumb, we don't have to worry about it getting hit, because it's staying attached to the blade at all times, therefore making sure that everything is good to go on that one. So it's making sure that you're still safe, that everything is looking good. And then these, you can tell again, it's that same realization that we had when we were doing the smaller block, the test block, the practice block. Keeping that angle, you can definitely tell that there's a big difference in the direction and the angle. I can show you with our wonderful detail cam. Woo. But you can tell when you compare these, and let's make sure that the zoom's good. Okay, you can tell that these are not as deep as any of these other cuts. Definitely not as any of these deeper cuts. Like all these other ones, super deep cuts, and yet these ones aren't as deep, but they look clean and they look nice. And imagine if we would have kept like this depth for all these other ones. Well, for one, we wouldn't have this hole, but all these other ones would look pretty nice. And I'm 100%, not 100%. I'm like 99.9% sure that these chip outs would not happen if we weren't cutting in so deep. So looking at things like this, you can tell you can basically tell like, hey, if it's getting to the point where it's like this deep, it's like maybe this is like a style thing to where some people, they like being able to cut this deep, and it's like the deeper the cut, the better, the deeper the chip, the better. But for us starting out, we need to achieve this level. We need to be consistent in this level unless we find a pattern or something where it's justified that it needs to be, this deep and this detailed. But something tells me that this is the look that you should be going for the whole time. And so that is definitely what we will be trying to go for the whole time. All right. So let's now move to this other part here. Right here. So that. And then the way that I'm holding the knife and I have the knife like this just feels a lot better. It feels comfortable. It feels better in terms of like technique and what I'm supposed to do, but also it feels better for my hand. So there, and then we'll bring it out. There we go. Which I think that's important. Like, yes, sometimes when you're doing like a technique, if it's super foreign to you, it is going to be uncomfortable, and you learn to do, you learn with the uncomfortability. But I'm like, so, maybe it doesn't have to, hold on, there we go. It's like, maybe it doesn't have to hurt, you figure out a new technique to where, it's what you're supposed to be doing, but also it works for, it works for you. And, it's not as if you're doing something completely new. Go just in here. There we go. And then, of course, we hear a little bit of the chipping of the wood. And so we've already learned that we're not going to force the wood out. We're just going to simply retrace again and basically there's definitely, there we go. So like there's definitely going to be some cuts where, sometimes the wood's going to be like, I need a splinter, this, this doesn't feel good, but I'd rather it do that on its own. And then we, retrace to get the splinters out, rather than us rather than us trying to like pull it out, and then what happens is, as we saw, you know. And it very well might actually be also that the way like that this pattern is, we might want it to do like a bit of a thicker wood. But the way that this, I'm still thinking, you know, like when it comes to these, you know, these big triangles, it's still fine. Because even for these ones, so like this big triangle here, you know, even though we did need to go a little bit deeper because of the size of the triangle, we didn't need to go as deep as that one, the one with the hole. Like this one is still fine. So let me do this other, let's do this other triangle, and then we'll compare it. We'll see. I'll do a little bit of a closer so that we can see, you know, what it is that I am talking about. Go. So we go there, and then we start bringing it in. Go. And curve there. Desk space. It's like inventory in a video game, where like you have like vault space where you can like store all your weapons, and it's like you can never have enough vault space. Like they give you more and then you're just like, wait, I need more. I feel like that is the thing with desk space. Like you have your desk and it's like, oh, this is a big desk, and then you're like, I mean, yeah, it is a big desk, but it can be bigger. It can provide me with more space that I need. There we go. And I hear it. I hear that it's like, oh, hey, I feel what you're doing. There we go. It's like, I know what you're trying to do and I want to be there for you, but also, there we go. There we go. Probably going to take all these triangles out because these are the death of me. And not just the death of me, the death of my hair. Okay. For some reason, this one just don't want to pop. Buddy, it's fine. There we go. Here we go. Much cleaner. Okay. So. If we look, so looking at prepared, so these are the new ones that we just cut out, these two. And now you see how, you saw here, even though we couldn't do as shallow, there is some sort of like depth that we still need to get to it, but the amount of depth that we had at that, you know, at the angle that we did, it's fine. Are we at, I would imagine we are at like half of the block of wood when we did these cuts. But look how nice these are compared to these. You have that where it's like, you could tell like this is where we kind of knew where we effed up, and it was like, let's try to fix it. And here we were just like, I think that's where a lot of like the edgy ridges, like the edges and the ridges, why it starts to look like that. It starts to look like that as we are trying, hold on, let me, there we go. They start looking like that as we're like trying to like force through the cuts and try to force through them, and then you eventually end up with messes like that. So So what I'm going to do is I am going to work on, because there's only four more, and those are kind of like the harder ones for me. I'm going to do these for now. So that way, all we have to do is just worry about these triangle pieces. Or no, we 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, which aren't as bad. Like the triangle pieces are a little bit easier for me. Um, but especially in terms of like, okay, for the bigger triangles, because I feel like with these, because they're a bit smaller, we don't have to cut as deep, which I think is another lesson that we have to learn, because especially for, I'm gonna try see if we can just do it on this one. So for this one in particular, this one right next to it, so like this one, way too deep for it to be at like a tiny triangle that we could easily just kind of do like more on the surface part and just make sure that it's a little bit deep. This one, where is it? This one, way too deep. Like that's not what we want to aim for. So let's get this arm ready, pumped and prepared, because we're going for it. So if we do, okay, that's really not helpful. Well, maybe if we do that, okay. So maybe move that up a little bit to adjust that so I can then turn. Okay, perfect. So there. Yeah. It's definitely not a part of the technique. Do that. Bring it up. Let's see if we can adjust that just a little bit more. So you want to go to there, and then we bring it up. That should be good. Well, it should be. We'll see. Where are you? Yeah, that one. For this one, we do that. For this one, okay. There we go. You can hear the chips want to come out. So we do that. And then we do that. You go there. Still not. There's like something in there that is stopping the chip. I can hear it. Yeah, there we go. Why do you not want to come out? What's going on? Talk to me. Let me know. Nope. Go. There we go. There. Finally. All right. Perfect. 3 more. Let's try this without the like lever. Go. And then in retracing, go. I feel like this one was a little bit better. There we go. So what I did there, and I did it a little bit intentionally, I did well, what if I don't drag the knife down as far initially? Like, what if I do kind of like a surface level? If I just like, okay, we'll surface cut there, do a surface cut there, and then we do a surface cut there. Like, what will happen? And that's how we got this little thing. I do want to say that probably is not the best course of action, only because it might result in something like what happens here in these like little messed up pockets, where it doesn't come out all the way, and then if you're not careful, it's one of those things where I'm like, well, you know, with, I guess, kind of like with physics, science, I guess, depending on which physics scientifically, I'm not sure of the word. I feel like it would be easier because this actually does clean pretty clean still. I think if you do kind of like the surface cuts, and then if there's like a little bit of a little piece in there, you're not having to cut through so much wood. It's not as much as if you're doing like that full block. So that's just how I process that. It looks good. So since we're experimenting though, let's try it again. So what happens if we let's just keep like a good surface level cut. It's there. And then if we go up, okay. If we do this one, go in, let's do surface. Okay. And then for this one, there. So again, as I thought, so there is a little bit of like, it is raising up a little bit. And then if we just keep retracing it, go. Feel like eventually it'll come up. To where we should be able so we should be able to pick it up soon. But yeah, you see how like only certain parts of the wood are like splintering, and that's because we have to like kind of like guide it with the depth. Like, okay, now start going in just a little bit deeper to achieve that, you know, like that 3 point. I think it also depends on the type of wood. So like, even though this type of wood is a soft wood, I feel like there's definitely other softer woods, to where if it's a lot more that we, you know, a lot more wood that we can carve through, it won't be as much of a hassle. But just so, yeah, again, just like with this one, with the other one before us, this one is not bad. Go. Yeah, it's not bad. All right, one more, and then my arm will thank me very much. Because again, these other ones, the more smaller ones, because they're like they're a little bit on the smaller side, they don't have to be as deep of cuts. Let's do this. And then we do that. Ah, Susan, you make my life so much better. We do that. Okay. And then we'll just retrace each one's. Just going a little bit deeper into each one, each round that we go through. Yeah. And that's why, and so you just notice that the more you do like that, you start going into that indent, that's when these other sides start lifting up, and that's when the chip starts getting ready to be able to be taken out. That's what I'm noticing. So it's kind of like a, you know, do you want to put in the investment now, you know, to, you know, basically guide the wood and how the cut's going to look like? Do you want to just go ahead and get it done now, or do you want to do it later? As I'm realizing this, I'm realizing that it's not as helpful. And I think it's just depending on like the thickness of like the part of the wood. There's no real big difference, you know? Because eventually you're still, especially if it's like the part where it's like super taut and, you know, where it's kind of like, oh, this part's a little bit difficult, you're still gonna have to cut through it anyway, is what I am discovering about this. So it might just be worth it, you know, at the start to just kind of, you know, trace it and get it over with. It's like just that one little part. There we go. Like I can feel where it's just like, no, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, you're the last one. Literally, we're on the last part. And you're being super complicated right now. It's just this little part. Just this little part right there. So we're going to get a little inventive. There we go. You heard it and hearing it. There you go. Are you gonna? All right. So we definitely have not gotten to the other side of the woods. So that's how I know it's not as deep as, you know, the other one, the neighboring one. But I will say, I do think that we could have. It's weird. So I'm kind of under the impression, I'm getting the impression that I think with like the bigger the cuts, I think I'm going in farther than I should, especially for the bigger ones, because if I look, detail count time. If I look at, so this was the one we just finished, and if I take a look at, you know, this one, if I take a look at this one compared to like this one, it's a little bit deeper. Even though we still have like that slant, it's a little bit deeper than what I'd like for it to have been. And I'm thinking the reason for that is because I'm not, so like when I start taking the knife, I'm like immediately like, okay, let's go for as far down into the dent as possible, instead of like, I guess like delaying it, like delaying how much it will go to like form that kind of like that 3-point that we want to do. So that's, I think that's a part of handling the knife as well. Like, yes, even though we have like that angle, that slant definitely going on, we can control it a little bit more so that it's not like super cut on in there. Or maybe it's an instance of, for the way, you know, the bigger that the chip needs to be, that's more when we want to be really more towards the 45 degree, you know. And then for like these smaller ones, we can ease up a little bit and get a little bit closer to the 65 degree, because that one will have to be will have to, you know, stay like a little bit consistent. It doesn't have to, you know, we won't have to go so far deep into it. So it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a little bit harder to explain what's going on in my mind, so I hope I explained it well. This would be a really great way. Look at that. Don't look at the bed, but just look at that. Sponsorship opportunities right here. Look at that. I'll probably put like a curtain here or something, just depending on how this goes. If I do decide to keep this right here, which I probably won't, but just like in this time, wonderful sponsorship opportunity. This is brought to you. It's actually not, because Respawn does not, you know, they do not sponsor me. This is not an ad, but just imagine if it was. Like, this is like an optimal spot for marketing. Oh my gosh. All right, but let's go ahead, turn that off. And then we'll go ahead, finish up. We'll go ahead and finish up these, finish up this pattern. I'm not sure if I want to share this on social before or after we finish the other one. I kind of want to wait until after we finish the other one and say, you know, and then have some sort of like inspirational quote about growth and learning and, you know, something of the sort, so that when they see it, it's like, hey, you tried. And then they flip over to the next one and then they're like, oh, now that looks good. Now that's a good one. It's like, yeah, I know that other one is crap. I don't want to do like that. We finished our very first one. And then everyone's like giving us pity likes. I don't want that. I know this one is not good at all. So we'll probably hold off on posting it until after we apply the next one onto it. And then we carve that one using the lessons, the skills, the learning, and everything. And then it looks bomb. And then we post them together. So let's go ahead and get these last chips out. And then, I mean, that is cause for celebration. We actually finished like our actual first chip carving pattern. Oh my gosh. But yeah, one of the things that I've been like thinking about, where I'm like, should we like, you know, think about in terms of like, hey, in terms of like thumbnails. So I did reuse the thumbnail that I used for like a last stream, for this one, especially for YouTube. But I need to think of something so that I can either use it like a static, like, oh, this is a chip carving stream. I need to figure out some sort of like thumbnail that, you know, I can use so that it kind of like signifies that. Because right now, I don't have that. There we go. See, these ones are so much easier now. My arm thanks me very much. I believe it's just right here. There we go. It's right on there. And there we go. Look at that. And it just comes out. And we're just gonna keep it going. Go. And see, this is where I mean, because it's like when you're, you know, cutting through like the different pattern and everything, like here, I had to start under the paper, which really is not a bad thing. It's not as if it's this difficult thing to like start with, you know, going under the pattern, but it's just like, if I don't have to, I don't want to. And when the pattern is applied directly to the wood, you don't have to. Therefore, I feel like I don't want to. go. Oh, look at it. Just goes ahead and just comes on out. Wonderful. It's the same situation here. Making sure we keep angle. At least this cuts like butter. There we go. Just clean up these little sides. There we go. Wonderful. You see, even in there, when we start to get some resistance, as long as our thumb remains on the knife, there's no way for us to damage this thumb if we're always. But I'm thinking it might be smart to start with these lines first. And then the other one was the final one to just like cut on through. And then everything just, and then everything just kind of like falls into place. Let's see. There we go. There. Beautiful. Wonderful. All right. Let's keep it going. So if we start with the outer edges. That. That because we don't want to go so far in. And then that way, when we do this one, there we go. And that way we already know where, see, and we already know where it's going to give us like that little bit of a problem, which isn't necessarily a problem. It's just more of like a little pain point that we can easily just through. There we go. And I feel like once we have just a little bit more practice and gain just a little bit more skill, the less we'll have to go through, retrace the pattern to make sure all the chips are in. There we go. And that's the click that we need. There we go. My arm. Maybe that's why. If it's like hanging in the ether, then of course we're using the muscle a little bit more. Maybe if I had it like right here. Let's try that. Um, that. Let me do that. Let's trace along here. Okay. Trace back along here. We have no sense of there we go. There we go. Oh, okay, well. Definitely we're going to be removed eventually, but thank you for not being super difficult. There you go. Beautiful. And then moving on to the next one. So, do need to go just a little bit deep with that one. Go. Yeah, this one's a little bit different. Yeah, I knew that is what would happen there. Go. And just something tells me it's going to be like a lot easier to see like how the wood's going, where the wood's going in terms of the cut, because the paper is not going to be hiding important information. Okay, so I mean that's definitely not what we want to happen, but it's not as bad as some of these other ones, so we'll hang on to that as like a semi-win. Yeah, no. Yeah, okay. So that is okay, that's a good angle, let's say. Where? Let's go through. There you go. There you go. Nice, remove the paper. You should be almost about gone, if not just gone completely. There we go. All right. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I was about to say, I feel there's like a little bit of a bridge there. Just cut that. Okay. Perfect. That looks good. I like the way that looks. It's a little bit deeper than what we did, so it's a little bit deeper than what we did for this side. So like this side is a little bit more shallow. This side is a little bit deeper. But I feel like I feel like it's okay. Yeah. Maybe it's not. No, it's definitely deeper, because if you notice, like this one, these parts are a little bit more raised. It's like we just grazed the wood just a little bit. These actually have some depth to it. Trying to make sure everyone can see. These ones have a little bit more depth to it. And then these ones are a little bit raised. I'm just trying to figure out which one I like more, because either or out of these two, it's definitely not as deep as these. Like these, we can't ever do that again. But I like the way both of these look. And no, I'm guessing it's art, like it's just in terms of like artistic where we want to go with that. But they both look nice. They both look nice. These are definitely some of our better ones. So we will take that and run with it. There we go. All right. Almost done. And then we can try to see what we're going to do about taking off this paper, sanding it, whether that's like sanding it down or do we have to use some other method to get it off. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right. So scoot Susan over just a little bit. And then we are so we dig deep down there at the initial and then bring it up. I'm trying to figure out, okay, so like with the way that this works out, I'm gonna go deep there and then bring it out. And then same for here. We're going to slide it through just as we hit that part, and then we'll bring it up. So then that way, I'm a little bit cut off because, you know, the toner's in the way. But then this way, we should be able just to cut on this one and just do a really nice just it's really smooth cut there. And there you go. Still need to do the there. Get that out of there. Oh, it's this one. It's like now that I know, I understand. It's like I'm starting to understand kind of like the physics. And I keep saying physics, and that's probably not the word. That's definitely probably not the word I should be using in relation to this. But it's like understanding, especially for like the 3-point triangles. It's like, okay, the knife needs to like go down to a certain point and then you have to bring it back up in the middle. You know, like it for everyone with the way you have to angle it in a way to where it's like, okay, it all meets up at this certain point. So at this point, you need to go in just a little bit and then you bring it back up. And then for this one, you want to start immediately going down and then you bring it back up. For this one, you might want to like, you know, go a little bit shallow, and then you have to go deep and then bring it back up. It just depends on what the pattern calls for. So like for this one, it's like, okay, we want to start down. I'm going to start down, and then we're going to start bringing it back up here. So like that. So it's like you start down just a little bit to, you know, get to that middle point, to get to the nexus point, and then you bring it back up. And then for here, you're gonna go a little bit in, bring it surface, and then you want to bring it down so that it meets up that nexus point. Same in there. There you go. And to get it already like ready, there you go. So then all we have to do for this one is we're bringing it down. And then bringing it up. Which we didn't bring it down as far as we should have. And that's why it didn't come out as clean. But also, this wood part right here, now this is definitely not us. That part is very stubborn. I don't usually like to blame it on the wood, but that part is very stubborn. Goodness. In which we've had some parts of these woods be just a little bit more stubborn than we'd like for it to be. But you know, it's fine. I guess that comes with choosing your woods and which ones are going to be a little bit easier to you choose basically like, hey, this one's going to be just a little bit easier to carve, and then others are going to be just a little bit are just going to be a little bit more tougher. Go. There we go. That's definitely not an approved cutting technique, but that part, I have no idea what I was supposed to do there. Just like that one little part that's like, yo, what's going on? Talk to me. What happened? All right. Okay, and it's gonna be the same, but I'm gonna try. Let's try not being so like getting too deep. Let's try to be just a little bit more shallow with it. We'll bring it up there. Okay. Let's try that. For like it's there. And then we're already seeing it start to lift off. There we go. And already we can see a significant difference in how far it needs to cut, and how far we need it to go in to get it to chip out. We're going completely. So it's not that we're bringing the knife too deep in this instance. It's the depth of it. So it's like before. So it's like you have to keep it like, it's like basically the actual like how far we're cutting the wood until we actually have to bring the knife down. Whereas before, yeah, because this one was a lot easier. But you can tell there's a big difference in how far we've actually like gotten into it. See if I can show everyone. Which one did we just do? Oh, it was this one. So my face is blocking it. Okay, there we go. Don't focus on my hand, focus on the wood. There we go. Think we all get it, get where it is. There we go. So you can see right there, so you can tell where this one's just super deep and then this one's just like super not. There we go. So yeah, so with this one, we kind of eased up the knife a lot of bit to make sure that we're not getting super like a super deep cut. This one is just like, yeah, we have to go super deep to make sure that these lines, and it's weird because it's like, then these lines look a little bit like super sharp, and it's like, it's bad. Doesn't look bad like this either. Except our arm hurt after we cut these two. So we're gonna try that. We're gonna try focusing on just a little bit more of like controlling the knife just a little bit more on these major big triangle cuts, and that should help with it being that should help out a lot with it, you know, for like those, oh, that one's just a little bit that is a little bit tight. A little section right there, just a little bit stubborn. All right, I think we're good. I don't think we need this as a stopping board anymore. So let's see. All right, so we maintain our angle. So maintain this. And then if we start to go there, and then we bring it back up. And then, yep, let's see, this is where the paper, y'all. If we keep it surface until, there we go. We'll keep surface until we get there. 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 So that's a little bit deep there. Definitely getting the science behind it. I'm trying to avoid saying physics, because again, I think I'm using that word wrong, but I'm definitely getting the science behind, okay, you know, bigger the chip, you know, it's up to you to decide how easy or, you know, how hard of a time you're going to have if you progress the way that you're going to keep going, you know. There we go. And that is that little click that we needed in order to get this one. And look at that. So it's not as deep. Come on, get out of there. Definitely not as deep as the other one. It still looks clean, and our arm thanks us very much. So let's see, because these two are like tiny, let's finish these ones using our newfound knowledge and skill. So we're going to go here, keep it surface, and then go just a little bit deep there. There we go. And for there, just there just a little bit, and bring it up. This one. There we go. And for that one, the paper just isn't even, the paper isn't even fully on the wood. But that is one of the cleaner chips that we've taken out. So that's a plus. Okay. Definitely opportunity to make that one just a little bit cleaner in relation to like the other wood and where we cut it. But a portion of this, I'm actually going to say the paper hinders. The paper definitely hinders. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Okay. So, but it might also not just be the paper. It could just be the way that we did the cuts in the other ones. And like this one and all these other ones, like each cut, so depending on if you're going like super far and you're like cutting into like the other woods, that does affect it as well. So it may not just be the paper, it may be a lot more. Turning that around, I'm gonna go here, gonna start here, keep it showing until we get there. There we go. And then we're just gonna cut there. All right. Over here. Just gonna bring it there, and then bring it back up. See, and then look at that. The way that like the line is just like, I can see where like I'm starting the cuts and everything, and it's just like, it is so ugly. There we go. There we go. But it's coming in. I can hear it. There we go. All right. Keep it going. Go. Definitely on these other ones that we need to let's get a little bit deeper. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna say that one end, so that longer edge was such a smooth cut. I'm like, it can't be that one. It just can't. I refuse to believe that part is the issue. And look at that, it was not. Right. Next. There. We go down there. And maybe that is interesting. Interesting. Okay. So as I'm going through this, and it's a little bit too late because we got to the end of it, I'm thinking the way that the knife is. So, like, because this one we're like just dragging along until we hit to the end, maybe it makes more sense to start with this one and going down and then plunging out. So then at least with this one, we kind of have better feeling of where it needs to meet up. And then you go for the long one and then you just go all the way through. I really hate that we had that sort of realization on the last. There we go. There. This. There we go. And see, even in those little itty bitty, top parts. Yep. So this one was again just a little bit too deep. It was, a little bit deeper than we said that we would go. But even then, I feel like, sometimes it's going to happen, sometimes it's not, until we absolutely get into a rhythm where we don't have to worry about it anymore. But even then, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad, and our arm thanks us very much. All right, so let's get to these final ones, which these should all basically be kind of like surface cut. Really, and what I was going for was this should be the first cut as we're bringing the knife out, and then this one should be kind of like the third cut. There we go. Just bring this knife on through. Oh, nowhere. So there we go. Oh, that one was super clean. There we go. All right. There we go. So, yeah. So this should be. Yeah, this should be the first one because we start deep. And then we bring it in just a little bit. There we go. Way. Just bring that one on. I don't think with that one, I don't think we kept our 45. The 45 that we know and love. It's okay. Yeah. 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 Come on, get on out of there. There we go. Yep, that one just a little bit too deep for our blood, but we know why. And that's the thing. As long as we know why, we know, like, we can point to, okay, this was the exact reason. Don't do it again, That's easier than, I think this is what it was. I'm not sure. Maybe. This one. Yeah, just gonna do. Yeah. Move it up. That one goes there. Let me just bring it. And this one. There we go. And look at that. Cakewalk. Go. So we need to start here. And see, that's what we don't want. We don't want the knife to kind of just like tread on over and it end up hitting other parts. There we go. To this longer part. All we should just need to do is and then yeah, there of course is chipping in this little tiny part there, but that is in part, I blame that in part of the paper, but also in our knife, like grazing over certain parts. Like this pattern has very intricate like points where the where a lot of the like chips start. So you have to make sure, especially with this, you have to make sure that you have like really good knife control, because otherwise what'll happen is as you hit to a certain point, sometimes your knife will like graze over a certain part and then parts will start chipping out because it's already a weak section, having been, you know, cut at several different points, and it's already a weak section, and it doesn't help that you're taking the knife as well and like, okay, a little chip there, little chip there, little chip there. So like certain parts of this, and you can tell like certain parts of this is going to be like super, so like these little parts where all these different cuts originate from, like especially like this middle part here, you know, and even really technically like at this upper part as well. If you get to those points and then your knife accidentally like, oh, it cut a little bit there, oh, it cut a little bit there, that's when you're gonna start losing pieces of the wood right there. So that is where that makes sense to me, where I'm like, I blame that a little bit on, you know, having the paper on the wood and like kind of like having to readdress and re-go through like, oh, this is where the start of it was. But you know, we don't have to worry about that so much anymore because we have the proper technology with an inkjet. Inkjet printer. All right, let's get these last ones done and get this first project over and done with. So we've been starting with this one, so start with this one. Go down there. There. It was just a weird angle to hold the wood at. Go. It's like, hey, get off the finger. There you go. Yeah, not liking the degree that I was holding the knife at there. But I can pinpoint that a lot quicker. Okay. All right. I mean, and it's not super bad. It's not bad at the angle, but I just feel like I feel a lot better at more of like more of that, you know, aiming for that 45 as much as possible. Trying to start there. And do bring it up. I'm gonna do start to bring it in. Okay. So when we get to this part, keep it surface, keep it level till we get there. This part. There we go. Got it. Go. Here's a little part. Wasn't really cooperating with us. Clean that up just a little bit. And then we do it again here. Down. And then bring it back up. Okay. I wanted to say it was the same kind of area. Yeah. I think there's kind of like a faux flick that you want to do at the end to kind of just make sure that, you know, it connects. So on this one, so like for this, I feel like there's like a kind of a flick that you want to do there to make sure that the rest of that is out. So like that. Come on out. Perfect. Final one. That, yeah, it's kind of like you want to dig into it a little bit. Yeah, that one's probably like a little bit too deep on that first cut, but you want to dig into it with that first kind of cut. Go. And then on this one, we did it out of order, but on this one, you want to go through there, and then you kind of want to hook it at the end. Make that part just a little bit easier to come out. There we go. Yeah, and then of course that That is not supposed to happen, but at least I know why that. There we go. And then we'll put it up. There we go. Wonderful. It's just absolutely not. I'm just gonna let that little chip part just go through the hole. Like, yeah, we'll just have it just cut out through the hole. And that's done, y'all. We finished a whole chip carving thing, a whole chip carving pattern. Now, see, on this cam, this is what a filter will do. Maybe we'll do this. I'll take a picture, run it through a couple filters, but like I feel like this is the beautification cam. This is what happens when you apply a filter to something that's like, that's not nice. And then you get to unfiltered. And then you get the real story. You get the real story and you're just like, oh, I mean, it's still nice though. It's all right, you know, it's okay. And it's like, is it? Is it? But either way, this is a wonderful first carving. I'm actually feeling very proud because I feel like this is definitely one of those like not beginner patterns. Like, to be honest, I'm pretty sure someone looks at that and they're like, yeah, that is not easy. It's like, yeah, well, you know, we don't like to do things very easy here. We like to make things super complicated on ourselves and, you know, go for the advanced things. I am just really happy, only because, I mean, we finished it. Yeah. And there was a lot of learning that came into that, and which look at that. We got the paper coming off. Now we can take this off. I'm gonna sheathe this thing. Well, once again, hoping maybe I'll look into it. I'm like, yo, do we have like a case? Maybe that would be nice, like a case to like put our knife in. I'll have to see. Maybe they have one online. So we'll do that. There we go. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll do that. I think I'll just slap on a filter on it. We'll slap on a filter and just say, hey, we did it, y'all. We finished a pattern. Now, and by no means is this perfect, but we toss that because we'll be printing it on actual paper that we can transfer it. And we'll just, you know, let them continue to know, yeah, we know that this isn't perfect, but it's done. And can we? We do that. And it's coming off, but I'd rather save this sand eraser for the ink. Yeah, for when we do the ink, because really you're supposed to use this to you're really supposed to use this type of eraser to erase off the toner ink, and that is where it'll be easier to get off, not paper. So let's see if we have like a rough grade. Yeah, we'll try that. Okay, so I'm going to sand this thing. So the paper is indeed I mean, the paper is coming off. Just need it to come off a little bit better. Want to get the paper off of the edges of everything, not just from the inside of the pattern. It's P120. This is P150. Where does it go? Does it go up? Yeah, P150, P120, P180. Oh, okay, so the lesser the rest. So this is the roughest that we have. P120 is the roughest, I guess. What is this one then? It's 5112. So let's try this. This should work. Okay. Probably what I'll have to do. Because I mean, we got majority of the inside of the paper off. It's just the outsides where it's like, I really don't care for it. So like, see, like when you do that, it looks wonderful. Except for the fact that there's a hole in it. So if we take Sir Chippington the knife, take off some of the ends, and I mean, and this is I mean, this right here is a lesson in itself. It's just one of those, you know, the pros and cons of using tape instead of like transferring over the pattern via some like transfer pattern thing. So I mean, it's a lesson in itself. This technically is like a practice kind of a thing, but you know what, it's fine. We'll make it a lesson learned, but we will celebrate the fact that we are finished. Again, you know, it's not bad. That's the thing also, it's like, it's not bad. Well, on camera, it's not bad. This is definitely not something you want to do and be like, yeah, so you paid for this, here you go. Like, that is not at all something that you would submit for, like, this is not something you submit for a contest. Like at all. Maybe like, oh, a beginner level like super beginner level contest, and you're like, I know it's rough around the edges, but I wanted to do something a little bit more intricate, and I wanted to really test out my abilities. So although it's not perfect, you can definitely see the heart behind it. And they're like, yeah, no, I can see it. You know, but if you're going into like a chip carving contest and you submit this, they're going to be like, why would you do this to yourself? Why would you even embarrass yourself like this, you know? And to which you'd say, but okay, but yeah, so this is that. Again, let's do it on the detailed plan. And give it one final go. So, and even in the detail cam, after the sanding, it's not bad. Oh, there you go. I was gonna say, after the sanding, it's not bad, but you can definitely tell where the rough parts of the edges are. I think if the edges weren't so rough, and the only reason why they're a little bit rough, outside of the we just sanded it down, but a lot of that is the slipping of the knife and the knife cutting into certain parts that it shouldn't have. So that's lessons. Those are lessons in itself. But otherwise, I think this was really good. This was a really good thing. I really enjoyed. I love the way that it looks as a first time understanding, like a first time kind of project. And I just can't wait to continue and try other little mini different patterns. As I'm thinking about it, and I'm changing my mind of if I want to go ahead and redo this pattern. If I can't find another pattern that's like either like similar or, you know, just something of like kind of the same caliber where we can kind of show off the skills, then I'll go ahead, reprint this one out and put it like on this side, and then like probably have like some sort of border or something like right here to divide it. And then that can be our, you know, even though there's things on this side, kind of like have it be like a little set, you know, like from beginning, you know, something like here, and then like have it look really nice on this one and have some sort of inspirational thing, you know, like beginner. I don't know. It's a good thing to think about. But yeah, it's not bad. It's an accomplishment. We finished it, and it's only going to get better from here. So I do want to thank you guys for joining me today. Hold on, let me go full screen. There we go. I do want to thank you guys for joining me today. Again, nothing really is going to change on this channel except for we are going to be going back to playing games, as I mentioned before, with the introduction of hanging out on Facebook. We will go ahead and reinvest back into the restream, and just integrate kind of like we'll just have like a one for all kind of integration, and what we're using for and you know, like multi-streaming to multiple platforms, but just having sort of like different varieties. So I'm thinking Tuesdays would be like Destiny days, and then Fridays will be well, Tuesday mornings more of like the Destiny day. Friday mornings we typically have reserved that for Marvel's Avengers. We've really gotten into Kate Bishop, and you know, of course, trying to get that platinum trophy, and so we can invest into, you know, kind of like going into that, maybe, you know, switching off between the games, and you know, right now that's just how it is. But it's always subject to change. So it's like Tuesday mornings at 6, Fridays mornings at 6, and then Friday evenings at 8 o'clock will be wind down, release the, you know, the stresses of, you know, the working week, and you know, really make some beautiful art. So that is that. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, with the scroll, please go ahead, follow the channels below, and I will catch you all in the next one.